Greetings.
Good morning. We are at the airport.
So we're at the airport, headed to Atlanta for the Curvy Fashionista Style Expo. It's got me thinking about tips for traveling while fat. Number one, wear comfortable clothing. This means pants that you feel comfortable sitting in, moving in, walking in. I like a flowy pant that I don't have to worry about falling off of me, so it's high-waisted, it stays up. I like to wear a big baggy shirt because I usually have to go through the really intense pat-down scenario, but this time, for some reason, I got to go through the really easy one, and that was great. And then
I got patted down. They told me my thighs were on fire.
oh, they told you
It was
that.
like, your thighs are hot. I was like, they are touching.
So wear comfortable clothing. You'll probably have to like reach up into the air for that scanner thing. So I like to wear a big baggy shirt. Be prepared for being patted down to the point of discomfort because they have to go up between the thighs and touch the top there. Last time I was flying, I had to lift up my titties and they had to feel underneath my chest. So be prepared for those things, dress accordingly for that. Wear comfortable shoes that are easy to slip on and slip off because you might have to take them off to go through security. And it just feels like shit to afterwards be like struggling to put your shoes on, and it's like fast paced and everybody's like trying to get through. So wear comfortable shoes. One of the biggest tips that I have also is to, if you can, fly Southwest. I know they don't go everywhere, but if they happen to be an option, definitely go with them because they have a pretty stellar passenger of size policy. When you show up, all you have to do is go to the ticketing agent, check in, then say you would like a second seat, and no questions asked, they will print you another ticket that says seat reserved. Hold on to that and bring it with you with all the other things that you need to bring to get on the plane. They ask if it's if you have a return flight, they'll put a note in the file so that you don't have to ask for your flight home to get a second seat. For the most part, when I've traveled Southwest, they all know about the policy and I haven't had any issues. I haven't had to explain it, no problems there. Another tip is to just plan on being very early so that you can take your time walking at the pace that you need to, not feeling rushed. Go through security at your own pace. Don't put pressure on yourself to move faster than you can. When it's time to start lining up to board the plane, you should know that your ticket with Southwest specifically, I don't know how it is with other places, but the ticket does not say on it that you can board during the pre-board section. But if you have a second seat, you can, and you should, because you want to get on the plane before everyone else and make sure that there's an extra seat next to you available. You can confirm with the people that are standing at the gate. If you are uncomfortable and you don't know whether or not you're allowed to go first, you could say, hey, I have a second seat. I heard that I'm allowed to pre-board. Is that true? They will say yes. Anyone that's pre-boarding does get a +1. I realize that is true because when we've done that, Grandma got to go with us. Cool. So if you're traveling with somebody, you can bring someone with you, and that way you can make sure you have your extra seat and you can also have your person on the other side. So when they call for pre-board, it's going to feel like you're not allowed to pre-board because a lot of the times you'll be lining up with folks who are in wheelchairs, people with mobility needs, people who have prearranged to be pre-boarded as well, and it feels a little bit like, ooh, maybe I'm not supposed to go with these folks. You are. That is your time to go. You line up, you show your ticket, they see that you have an extra seat, there's no questions, no problem. So you'll be pre-boarding for any of the families, before any of the people with kids, strollers, all that, you are before that, unless they happen to also have pre-board. So when they call for pre-board, that is you. Another tip is to make sure that if you can check your bag, do so. That way you have less things to carry on with you and worry about. I personally have a really hard time trying to get my luggage up into the overhead bins. It's just I'm short and stout and it's hard enough to get through the aisles and stuff, so I don't like to fumble with things on the way. I just bring a backpack, and that's it. When I board, I like to find a seat in the first few rows just because it's easier to get in and out of the plane. It's hard for me to go through the aisle. I have to kind of turn sideways and I'm like hitting the seats on the way on each side, and if there's somebody happening to be sitting there, I'm hitting them. So I just try to find a seat like in the first few rows. I don't sit in the first row because that's reserved for people who don't have things to stow underneath their seats, and if you have a backpack, you can't stow that under in the first seat. Also, if there happens to be a lot of people in wheelchairs or people with mobility needs, I find that it's like easy for me to get a few rows back, and I want to leave those available for anyone who might have a harder time getting through, but that's completely up to you.
Also, you can't sit in emergency exits if you need a seatbelt extender. And some airlines will say that the first row is an emergency exit. Some lines won't, but you want to check with them and ask if you can sit in the front row with a seatbelt extender. Southwest usually says yes, but Delta says no.
Okay. So that brings me to seatbelt extenders. Now, people suggest that you can buy seatbelt extenders online. I've looked into it, and you do have to make sure that they're like approved, like airline approved. So I haven't even bothered with that, but they are relatively cheap. I could put a link in the description below so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. I have never had an issue getting a seatbelt extender when I get on the flight. I've felt uncomfortable, but there's always been one available. When I first started flying, I would go sit down and then try to grab a flight attendant and ask them for a seatbelt extender. Now I've found that when you just enter and they're welcoming you onto the flight, if you just say, hey, can I grab a seatbelt extender, it's right there. Before you even get like fully on the plane, they can hand it to you. And then when you see the seat that you like and you want to sit down, you can click it before you even sit. And I find that to be more helpful just for getting my body in the seat and making sure my seatbelt is ready to be clicked. There was one time that I flew and they needed another seatbelt extender because someone else needed one, and they just like sent a flight attendant off the plane to go get a new one. So they are accessible, they are there, and it's their responsibility to have enough available. And then I think the last thing that I would say for tips for flying while fat would be to take your time exiting the plane. Definitely like wait if you feel like you need to, so you don't have to feel rushed and hurried to like scurry off. I like to wait till like a lot of people have gone through, just because when the plane stops, everybody like immediately stands up, starts trying to get their stuff out of the bins, and like I'm not about trying to fumble through aisles with lots of people. It feels very like claustrophobic. So take your time, hang out for a minute, gather your things, and leave when you're ready. Make sure it's as painless of an experience as possible. I feel like something that helps me is to remember that when I get anxious about it, preparation is a really great aid in dealing with anxiety. Prepare as much as you can, hence the video. Those are my tips for flying while fat. I hope you found it helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about flying while fat in the comments below, and I will try to answer as best as I can based on my experience. Also, just for reference, just so y'all know, I am over 400 pounds and I am a size 30, 32 in like women's. So I know bodies are all shaped differently, but that can kind of give you an idea of what kind of lens I'm working with when flying while fat. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful. Bye.